quite some time in the Ugandan parliament and gone through the thick and thin of politics. Tonight on People and Power, I host Honorable Betty Nambooze. Honorable Betty, it's a pleasure having you on People and Power.
Pleasure meeting you too.
Thank you so much for sparing time to be with us. And well, there is just a lot about you, but I think the politics overshadows the other part of your life. Let's start off with your...
Politics is my life.
Politics is your life,
In
so
fact,
you say.
the struggle, to some of us, the struggle is our life.
You know, you can never say a statement without saying the word struggle.
Because we are struggling for democracy in Uganda, first of all.
Yes.
And in Africa in particular. Yes.
Okay. Well, let's not start off with the politics, because I know that came much earlier, I mean later on in your life. Who is Honorable Betty Nambooze Bachideke, or who is Betty Nambooze Bachideke minus the honorable bit?
She's just the humble girl from Mukono.
Okay. Born and raised here and bred here?
Yes, my life has been in Mukono, this Mukono. I belong to Mukono. Mukono has made me, and it is my identity. I can't, I don't think I can survive outside Mukono.
Okay.
One time, some people had suggested that I go to exile. When there was those days when it became too much, the persecution became too much, and there were suggestions that maybe I leave Uganda. But whenever I thought about Mukono, then I felt so bad that there was even a suggestion for me to leave. I was born in, I have 2 birth dates. And
how come? Of course, everyone has one.
I will tell you why.
Okay.
I'm 2 years younger than my official age. So I'm 50 years.
It's quite confusing,
but
I'll listen
if
to
you. If you have a meter, age meter, you would find out that I'm 48. My mother gave me that date, the year.
Okay.
I was born on the 13th of July. But 1969 is the year that was given to me by my mother. In the past, they could not allow a child who is less than 6 years to be in P1.
Okay.
To join P1.
Okay.
And they would take us for interviews, and the interviews were as simple as lifting your arm like this and touch your ear.
Your other.
If you did that, you would have passed the examination.
Oh, really?
But when they took me, I could not touch my ear. And you see, there was that...
And you were of the age? You were already 6 years?
No, I wasn't 6.
Okay.
And there was that teacher, Mrs. Chiza, who taught me in P1. And between the 2 of them and my mother, they said, if the headmaster finds out that I've admitted a pupil who is underage, I will face punishment. So now they said, Nambooze, do you know what? If anybody asks you, you must tell that person that I was born in 1969.
Okay. Because you wanted to cheat and go to school before the real
Was it
age.
me? It was my mother. And her issue was, I'm coming... I was coming after Sanyu. She passed on. My sister passed on. You see, that's why you will see that I have about 2 sets of children because I took over hers. Sanyu was in P1, and Mom wanted us to be in the same class. Okay. It would make it much easier for her. And I was 2 years younger than her, so I had to get those 2 years to be 6 so that I would be in the same class. It would be cheaper, and Mom always thought that Sanyu would look after me. So
in actual sense, you were born in 1971, not 69?
I was born in 1970.
Okay.
In July, on July 13th of 1970.
Okay.
So I got 1 year and some few months.
More.
But when I grew up, and I found out that they had given me a wrong year. Then I thought, if I say I'm 2 years younger than my official age,
they will say it's a lady's thing.
I will look like a liar. So I left it at that, and I've celebrated 50 years now.
Yet you actually...
Yes, I'm 50.
Okay, we'll keep it at
I'm 50 by that age. So
okay.
Officially I was born on the 13th of July, 1969.
Okay, now I totally understand. So which school is that mom thought you should go before even your age? Which school was that?
Bishop School, Mukono East.
Oh, still it was in Mukono.
Yes.
So from there, where else did you go? Where else did you attend school?
I went to Bishop Senior Secondary School, Mukono.
Okay.
I would have gone to Namagunga.
But what
I was the
happened
best
along the
pupil in Mukono in the primary living examination in my year 1982.
Lovely. No wonder mom took you to school.
But then I could not afford to go to Namagunga.
What do you mean couldn't afford, yet you were the best student?
No, I mean in terms of school fees and other school requirements, I could not afford. I could only be a day scholar. You see, some of us, even to talk about a mattress or a pair of shoes belonging to you, those were luxuries when I was growing up.
Okay.
When we were growing up, us and our mother, we were vendors here in Mukono.
Oh, really? What did you
Yes,
vend?
market vendors. We used it to sell banana leaves. When I was in P5, P6, P7, I had a canteen there. You see, it was funny.
You had a personal canteen?
Yes.
So you started business early?
Very, very early in life.
Okay.
I would jump out of class 15 minutes to break time, and I would run to the market down there and open my car shop.
Oh.
I would sell pancakes, everything the pupils wanted. Then I would go back to class 15 minutes later than everybody. But the teachers got used to us. They knew us. You know, our mom could come to school so regularly to check on us, and we were clever pupils, and you know, everybody sympathized with us. So we did that vending.
So after failing to go to Namagunga, where exactly did
I
you
went
go?
to Bishop Senior Secondary School, Mukono here.
Okay.
But in senior 5, I sat with my brother.
Before maybe we go to senior 5, did you continue with the vending after primary into O level?
I changed the business. Now,
To which one?
Nachivubo Stadium was under reconstruction.
Okay.
And so all the football matches were moved from Kampala to Mukono, Bishop Senior Secondary Ground.
Oh.
So there was a man here, he had a shop called Gishabule. His shop was called Gishabule Uganda Limited. I went to him and convinced him that if he could do, he was a wholesaler, that if he could give me soda, I would go and sell and bring his money. It was like that. So he agreed. And I don't know how it came up, but people who were in charge of the stadium got so pleased with my actions and that they gave me an exclusive right to sell soft drinks at that playground.
Yeah.
And at one time I was even employing my mother.
Oh.
So I started selling soda.
You sold it for a profit, like an extra cost than it would be sold at his
Yeah,
shop?
the other one was a wholesaler.
Okay.
He was a wholesale shop. So I would take his money back. I did not have the empty bottles. That was a challenge. At times, some of them would break. At other times, they would get lost. But all in all, we stayed in the business, and eventually, I even added on beer.
Oh.
Yes. So, and then I opened up a brick making yard down there at Nakawolole. Everybody knows it here in Mukono. My story
Is
is
it
not
still
new.
existent up to now?
Yes, my story is not new to the people of Mukono. They all know what I've gone through. So I was making bricks.
Yes.
And during that period when I was making bricks, that's when I became a friend of Senyonga Muyanja, Honorable.
Yes.
He was also another hustler.
Okay.
And he bought himself a plot and started building a house when he was in senior 4.
Oh.
Yes. So he bought the bricks from me. And since then we have been friends. He's my brother.
All right.
Yes.
So you were telling me a story about joining senior 5.
So when I was in senior 5, I realized that I could not continue with education.
Really?
Because, you know, higher education is quite demanding and needs a lot of concentration. So my brother talked me out of it. He advised me to go for a course. This is, it was around that period that I met a person called Paulo Luhangalinda. He was the principal of Uganda Posts and Telecommunication School at Nakawa. But my mother wanted me to go for nursing.
Okay.
So one evening, I and my mother went to see Mr. Ruhangalinda to assist us with that. So when we reached Mr. Ruhangalinda's place, he took time to examine me to see if really I was in this nursing thing. You will work during Christmas. You will have to touch dead bodies. You will have to work at night.
Why did you look at only the negatives?
No, that is what he told me. Then,
Okay.
then he asked me, do you still want to be a nurse? I said, no, I don't want.
And did you also not want to be a nurse because
I didn't
of the
want.
things he
I didn't
said,
want.
or you just never wanted
No,
it?
from childhood I had liked to become a journalist. You know, during the Damien's time, there were the Henry Gombias who would report about the war, and in the background you would hear, we would listen over the radio.
And in the background you're hearing gunshots.
Gunshots.
And you really loved that?
And I said, that is one thing I want to do. So, but my mother kept on discouraging me.
Okay.
So when I went to Mr. Ruhangalinda and I told him that I didn't want to be a nurse, Mom got so annoyed with me. She almost left me on the way. She walked so fast when we are going back. Eventually, Mr. Ruhangalinda came to me again and he said, at the NRM Secretariat, they are going to give out scholarships for people who want to study journalism to go and get trained in Russia. He invited me to go and do the interviews. I did the interviews. I passed, but I never... It so happened that I wasn't given the documents I needed to travel. I don't know how it ended. Okay. Madame Avia Ruhangalinda was working at the NRM Secretariat then. So she instead suggested that since you have missed out on this one and you are no longer at school, can you go and to the Uganda Post and Telecommunication School and study postal services, postal and telecommunication? I had no alternative by then. So I went, did the interviews. That was in 1987. And then I joined Uganda Post and Telecommunication School. And I'm a trained post officer. Okay. If I had stayed in there, I would be a postmaster somewhere today. Okay.
So after that, after taking on a course that really you didn't like, how did it then continue?
So when I gained my independence.
What do you mean by that?
That is when I could sustain myself.
Okay.
So after the Uganda Post and Telecommunication course, I applied to join one newspaper. It was called The Mirror.
Without any experience?
Without any experience. Okay.
I
saw them announcing for those posts. Then I went and applied. I met there somebody called Mr. Wakabi Michael. He works now for the East African newspaper. He told me that in journalism they don't ask you for jobs. You just go and write the story and you bring it here.
Okay.
So down there where I was making bricks, there was one man who had refused to bathe. He was so dirty a person. So the villagers had connived and ambushed him and took him for bathing forcefully. That was my first story. So I wrote that one, and I joined the Mirror. But after 3 months, I was dismissed.
Why?
We somehow got into a strike as reporters, and I was one of the ringleaders, and I was dismissed.
So
but
but
I had learned that in journalism you don't ask for jobs. I joined the Citizen newspaper called Citizen and Munansi, the DP publications.
So you still joined those by just writing a single story and delivering it?
And I was Mr. Cheney and somebody called the Lawrence Semagulu Chiwanuka. He's now in the US. I walked there and I said, I want a job here. I've been working for Mirror. So they took me on. Of course now that is when I started getting interested in the issues of DP. Eventually I also got out of that newspaper and I joined the Munno.
Okay.
Munno publication. That was a church newspaper. It was for the Catholic Church. And then later Ngabo and finally New Vision.
Okay.
In between, I went for short courses in journalism and extensively studied investigative journalism.
Okay.
Yeah. So when it comes to investigative journalism, I think I'm one of the best Uganda has ever had.
Okay.
You see, there is the only few people who were better than us, Cheye, those people who ran the Crusader newspaper, Donna Pito, Komolo, they were good journalists. They were good journalists. So while I was there, government came up with a law that would require a person, only degree holders, to practice journalism. I and Tamale Mirundi and several others ganged up against that bill. But as we were fighting the law, people would mock us. But by the way, you are fighting the law because you
didn't go to school. You don't have the qualifications.
You don't have the qualifications. It's not that the law is bad, but you are selfishly fighting for yourselves. Oh, so all of us decided now, let's go back to university first of all, get the university education, and come back and fight this law. So it was then that all of us went back to school, including Tamale. He was my editor in Muno. He also had a publication of his own called The Reporter. So we went back to school, each one of us in his or our own area of interest. For me, I went back to Makerere to study law.
That's where you attained the law diploma?
Yes.
Okay. So do you think if there hadn't been that particular point or that law, you wouldn't have gone back to school?
Maybe I would have gone back to school, because in Uganda today people glorify academic documents, and if you live in such a country that glorifies academic documents, you must get them to prove yourself.
Okay.
Only that, but nothing like getting real education. And I know these people are going back to university, evening classes, weekend classes. I don't think that they get the education which is really in that thing, in that degree.
Okay.
You eventually win. It's just because you want to get an academic document.
Yeah.
So I went back, studied law. After the diploma, the arrangement was that the best 5 students would be facilitated by government to go for the full degree. And I was one of the best 5. So I joined the Makerere, but towards the 3rd year, I dropped out of school.
Why then? Why?
I dropped off the course. I had so many issues now knocking at my door. One of them was politics.
Then you had started getting involved, because earlier you said while working with the DP papers, you got interested. And I was in that group of the DP mobilizers that was led by Michael Kagwa. Okay.
So I dropped out of university, but already I had my diploma. Your diploma.
That's around which year that now politics is beginning to eat you up?
It was around 2004.
Okay.
I had just even got married to Henry. Then I had been in prison.
Okay.
So I saw my friend Elias Lukwago, how lawyers were suffering in the courts. And it occurred to me that most probably I will never even be able to practice law.
What suffering do you mean you saw your friends go through?
You see, around the same period, people would be charged in the courts of law, released, and then rearrested the next day or immediately thereafter. So, unless when you are going to be in that field as an activist, there isn't much today in that field, because legal matters move around the democracy.
Okay.
So I dropped out of school, but a few months later I went back to university now again to complete another course, and in another university.
Is that the development studies course?
Yes, I went to Nkozi to study democracy. So
that's how you went through.
That's how I went through.
Yes.
But I'm ever at school. That is one thing people don't know about me.
Like the Luganda saying,
yes,
right?
I'm ever at school taking short courses, doing distance courses. For example, when I was sick the other year, I applied through the British Council for a distance course in ethical city management. I'm also a Funa Abdullah's student in Makerere, and he ran a program on urban environment and city management. I think all of city managers should go for that course. I don't know if it is still there at Makerere.
All right. Now, for this particular segment, before we take a break.
So I can't for sure sit there and right away tell you what I studied.
Okay. in your earlier life, you seem to talk about mommy, mommy, mommy. There seems to be no daddy somewhere around. What exactly was your relationship with your dad?
My father was that person who ran several homes with children in every district. You see, he used to work for
Isn't that an exaggeration?
He used to work for the Ministry of Works.
Oh, okay.
And you see, they would be transferred from one district to another. What this good man did, whenever they would transfer him to a district, he would buy land there, construct a house, marry a woman there, and
settle
with that one. And then, if he's transferred to the next district, he would do the same thing. At one time, he had 7 homes. And you know, he got so many of us that, like I'm called Betty Nambooze, I also have a sister called Nambooze Rose.
Okay. But do you know all your sisters and brothers at the end of the day?
Yes, I know them. Unfortunately, many have died. But still, we are still many. Only that we are very few girls.
Okay.
So my father could come at our place as a visitor. And then he got himself into the rebellion movements against Milton Obote, and he joined the rebels. And for those years, we never saw him. That is how we ended up becoming vendors here, market vendors here in Mukono, because our father was away at war. He was a friend of Edward Mugalu, and together with Edward Mugalu, they went to the bush to fight Obote's government.
Oh, okay.
You see, there was those days when dead bodies would be dumped at a certain place. Then people would come at home and tell Mom, do you know what? Among the dead bodies dumped at such and such a place, there is a man who looks like your husband. And then we would put everything out in, like, and organize for a funeral. Mommy would go crying to return maybe 2 days later or a day after and say, no, I checked that corpse properly. It was not for your father. You know, but because we are young, we never brought ourselves to ask, why is Mommy looking for Dad among the dead? We didn't want to bring ourselves to ask
because
that
then you
question.
didn't know he was a rebel.
We didn't know.
All right. Well,
but you know, the good thing is that he wasn't killed finally. He's there.
He's still alive.
And, you know, retired.
Oh, that's
from all the 7 districts. He's back home. And you know what? When we gather as a family, they call us by the names of the district where we come from. They say, Abana bemu bende baze. Ata bena kasongola.
That's pretty interesting, but Honorable will be taking a very, very short break. And when we do return, we start around 2004, where Honorable Nambooze says that's when she really started getting engaged and engrossed quite a lot in politics. When we do return on People and Power. Welcome back. You are still watching People and Power, and this particular edition we are with Honorable Betty Nambooze, the Mukono Municipality Member of Parliament, currently of course representing her people in that 10th Parliament. Quite an interesting story so far that we have heard, that she even had to go through vending just to be able to support her early life, taking herself through school and, you know, going through all that. But we want to start off from the point of politics, because you said around 2004 is when you really started getting very much interested in politics. By the time you developed the love for politics, did you already have a family that had started developing, or you were still a young girl then?
But I've always been in politics, but it is just the different
elective
levels
politics,
of engagement.
maybe, yes.
I becoming a candidate now becoming the real actor instead of going to support others. Now I started developing that spirit to join as the actor myself in 2004 years. But then, like, didn't I tell you that I got married in 2002?
Yes.
I was a very, very active journalist, and that blend of journalism ran me into several problems with the government. And it was around that period of time that I thought that it's not enough reporting about politics, but it would be nice for people like me to join in and be part of it.
Let's take a look at some of the bits that got you into trouble with government.
Yes. At one time, you know, we had these talk shows when they had just begun.
The Rimeza?
Yes. Yeah, there was Radio Simba, had one of them, Simba Wakati, then the Saturday, Olutindo, it is called Gasimba Ganeneba Namaulide. At the same time, CBS also took me on for I would be there every Wednesday. Then every Wednesday for Kirizoba Ghana, every Saturday for Mambo Bado, and every Sunday for a program which gave me that a petty name, Madam Teacher, which we were doing with the Kasibante Moses. Basically, in that program, we are reviewing the recent history of Uganda.
So you're actually not a teacher by training, because some people think that you're actually a teacher.
No, I'm not a teacher.
Okay.
When we are running programs, you see, CBS had 2 programs running at the same time, one at 88.8 and another one at 89.2. So the one which was running at 88.8 had Nsereko, Sebuliba, and the Tamale Mirundi. Then on 89.2, it was me and the Kasibante Moses. Nsereko Sebuliba called the Tamale consultant, that he was his consultant. But the gist of the program was the same. It was about reviewing the recent history of Uganda. And then on this side, it is Kasibante coined that title for me of Madam Teacher, and he turned himself into just my pupil, my student, and he called himself the class monitor.
Okay.
So, but eventually, people started believing that maybe I'm a teacher. When I'm in the parliament, I always get petitions from teachers requesting me to talk for them, and you know, they're saying, you are a fellow teacher, please represent us. And I love it, because what is in teaching, the actual things you do to become a teacher is to impart knowledge. So yes, it is true, I'm a teacher. Okay. I was imparting, and I continue to impart knowledge through journalism.
You got arrested a number of times while you were still doing your work. That is before you
we had that love of sedition.
Yes.
every active journalist around that period got into trouble with that law until we took the law to the Constitutional Court. Yes. And then there was that other bill we were fighting. The bill that, for them, they said that it was an act of parliament intended to professionalize journalism. That we fought before we went to university. We returned and fought the law successfully. Okay. Of course, the bill passed into an act of parliament, but we are happy to note that it has never been implemented.
Okay. So at that point in time, before politics, you already married. How did you meet Mr. Bachireke?
Oh, I met Mr. Bachireke at school. Here at Bishop School. I
loved the it says a lot about your relationship with him.
Because in our society, people criminalize teenage love.
Okay.
It is as if
we call it coupling in school. Okay.
So it is criminalized, and you do it behind the backs of your parent, and if you are caught, you will be punished heavily for it. Of course, people fear, the fears are there. We are not yet developed to be able to take good decisions. Yes. Then the problem of early pregnancy. And then, of course, even small children have AIDS. We grew up during that bad time when AIDS had just invaded Uganda, and it was quite painful. It is just by the mercy of God that we have lived up to this time. Most of us, we were young people, you know, that period of life when you are so active, every part of your body is so active.
So you actually met him around secondary school?
Yes, in senior 3, yes, in senior 3. I was one of those very small girls in a class. Like I told you, I went to school much earlier than I would have been there. I was such a very small, tiny girl, but very stubborn, people say so. And then Mr. Bachireke here was a footballer, and you know, it started as if he was teasing me. He would tease me over my size, but eventually, you know,
it came from teasing, developed into something else.
It developed into friendship, and then we went into this letter writing because without WhatsApp and Facebook, so it was letter writing. Basically, that was it.
Weren't you ever caught in school with letters?
And then going for dances, we could call them Trans-Day dances, you know, Echizibia. We would do, by 10 a.m. we would be already in the dance hall dancing, and then by 6 p.m. you would disperse to go home. So I would dance with him.
So you actually stayed with him from around senior 3, and you people stayed together till 2002 when you finally said I do?
Of course, we had some challenges at one point. Because, you know, when we are growing up, each one of us is still arrogant in his own way. So there were some years, yes, we broke up. We don't want even to talk about that period. We agreed we should not talk about it.
Okay.
He was in Chisubi Technical School, and I was at Uganda Post and Telecommunication School. We got some problems. As you know, growing up is not easy.
Yeah.
But it was short. And eventually we made it official. But by the time we went for the wedding, we even had the children.
Okay.
We had the children.
All right.
And you know, it just came on its own that we had to do it, to officiate it. I've lived with him. I've lived with him more years than I lived with my father.
Okay.
Or any of my parents.
Oh, that's interesting.
So
when you decided in 2004 to full-blown blast get into politics, how did he take it? And the children, I know then they were young, but how
as a journalist, he was one of my biggest supporters. In fact, he would even tune to BBC, or he would get those magazines and you should work and become this. I just want to see you at the top there. So he has always been supportive of whatever I do. So when I joined the politics, he also supported me throughout. I have never known him to discourage me. Even when I landed into prison, that time when I was in prison for about 11 months, he stood with me. And we went through that period. I've been arrested on many occasions, but he will always come running to find out where I've been taken. And he's DP like me. He's the chairman of DP in this village. But for him, he wants to stop here at the village level. That is what he says.
Why so, when he is actually promoting you?
And you know, he's very silent. He's very private. My husband is a very private person. He wants to spend most of his time with the children at home. You know, you can rarely even find him hanging out with fellow men. He's so much in reading the Bible, listening to programs, the religious programs. And at times he even picks the Bible here and walks through the villages preaching. But when he's doing that, he will also be campaigning for me, praying for the sick. It is that person. He loves children very much. And he's one person who wants to be useful to others, especially the vulnerable. So, and partly, some people vote for me because of him.
Okay.
Some women there in Chikoza, one day boldly told me, that while you you know.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yes.
So in
he has been my friend, my helper, my partner, and of course, my partner in crime.
All right, so 2004 when you decided to go full blast, because I think that was just about 6 years before you came through for the municipality slot. What did you do between
I first stood as a councillor for Mukono Town Council to the district. I lost the election narrowly.
Okay.
And I did not stand because I wanted to win. I was also testing out my skills now as a politician. So in 2005, three friends of mine invited me for tea at a place called Best Meals restaurant here in Mukono. They say, we are inviting you and Mr. Bachireke for tea. So these are three men with whom we have grown up and been doing politics of supporting others together. So Mr. Makumbi, Mr. Katende, and also another one, because the two are called Makumbi. One is Makumbi William, then the other one is Makumbi Chiviri, and then Mr. Katende Sams Baker. They invited both of us for tea. And when we reached there, they told me, you see, we have been supporting people. We had supported Mambule Chigundu. He passed on. He died while he was still the MP. We supported the person who came in after his death. That's Honorable Mukasa Chintu. And they said, for us, we don't have the qualifications you have. This time around, we want you to stand. So they say it is our turn. But because it is our turn and you are the only one with qualifications among us, we want you to stand and compete for this position of becoming the MP of Mukono. It was Mukono North then.
Okay.
So he got up. He got up. He did not take his tea. He said, you people.
That is Mr. Bachireke.
He got up and said, no, I can't allow you to drag my wife there. And you know, you don't sympathize with your colleague. By then I was working here in Mukono Municipal Council as a law enforcement officer. It was not a very nice job, and you know, it would bring me into collision with a number of people. So somehow he said he didn't believe in it, but of course these people just laughed at him. Eventually he sat down, and then we talked about it. But when again he conceded, then he became my biggest supporter and promoter too. So we agreed with those colleagues of mine, and then I declared. Originally, I had intended to stand in Busiro East, because that is where my father's home is. That is my home village, Busiro. That is my home constituency, Busiro East. And you know, people in Busiro were waiting for me. But we finally agreed that let's leave Segona to take that one, and I come back here in Mukono.
In Mukono. So which particular year did you stand in Mukono? That was 2006.
Yes.
That was in a by-election?
No, I stood in the general election. Then I was rigged out, and it took me 4 years to pursue that matter through our courts of law. By the time a by-election was held here in Mukono, the 8th Parliament.
That was in 2010.
The 8th Parliament had only 9 months remaining to its end. But then I took those 9 months. Then I returned here in 2011 and won another general election. So I also stood up. Now, this is when Mukono was divided into two, with Mukono North and now Mukono Municipality, because the town council had been elevated to the status of the municipality.
And at that I will hold you. 2010 to around 2010-11, she becomes June, yes.
To be specific,
she becomes Mukono Municipality Member of Parliament, and that's almost synonymous with her name, Honorable Betty Nambooze Bachireke, Mukono Municipality Member of Parliament. When we do return, we will be talking about that.
It's a decade of that.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for keeping it NBS Television. You're still watching People and Power, and today we are in Mukono, and on this edition featuring the Mukono Municipality Member of Parliament, Honorable Betty Nambooze. Before we did take a break, we got to know how she finally got into the murky waters of politics. What has been her experience over the 10 years that she has served as a Ugandan legislator. Honorable Nambooze, you told us about how you got finally, after a battle in the courts of law for over 4 years, you finally got into Parliament.
Yes.
What was your first experience as a legislator, from journalism into a lot of work?
One thing, I joined the Parliament when the people of Uganda, especially people here in the central region, had a lot of hope in me. I had been an activist. I had been also commenting about what was taking place in Parliament. And I had been campaigning for Buganda issues. We call them Nsonga Sema Songa.
Okay.
So it was like you have been saying a lot while outside Parliament. Now here you are.
What are you going to do?
Show us what you are able to do. And it is that expectation and that too much love the people showed me. You see, the day I was sworn in, I don't think there is any MP before or after me who has ever enjoyed such big support.
Well, what happened?
See, the day I was sworn in, Kampala almost went on to stand still. You know, you could not move from Mukono to Kampala. People trekked from Mukono here to the city, and you know, it was something. The election was in Mukono, but the whole country was part of it. You see, some of those by-elections that become trendy. It's like what you saw in Chadondo East, something like what you saw in Bujiri, or the Alua by-election. You see, there are those by-elections that are in a place, but the attention of the entire country. So the election that took me to Parliament was such an election, and people had a lot of hope in me. I remember after being sworn in, I went outside there. I held a public rally, not anywhere else but on Parliamental Avenue, in the Lord there.
Okay.
With my friend, the Honorable Ukwago. And I told the people, you know what has been happening? You have supported so many people, people who promise you to be activists for change, and have let you down. But I want to promise you.
What exactly did you feel you wanted to start with?
First of all, I wanted to prove to people that we can have politicians who can never get compromised, and that I've done.
Okay.
That I've done, and I'm so happy. With the other issues, yes, I realized that some of the things could not be done as easily as I had thought before I joined Parliament. Like, you see, Buganda wants federal.
It just can't come easy.
It can't just come easy. You must go for the amendment of the Constitution. And if you are going for that, it means a lot. At times, we don't start this debate because we know that even when I start it, I will not be able to take it anywhere. So I don't want to give people false hope. But then, we had an MP here who had no relationship with the voters.
Is that Honorable Bakalwa Mukasa?
Yes.
The one you
I decided to bring the position of the MP to the people. You know, for the people of Mukono to appreciate that we have an MP and, you know, be available for them in good and bad. That one, I think, I've done. I've done my level best. And then, for me, I made this office an institution.
Okay.
And I have about 10 other people we work with.
You actually have an office right here at home?
Yes, I have an office here. I'm partly tenant there because that office, we gifted it to DP. We gave it out to DP. It's a party office. But I also put my own desk there to attend to my people. Every Friday I have a clinic. That is one thing members of Parliament here don't do. I saw it in UK, that MPs run what they call the MPs surgery, you see, or a clinic. You sit there and you allow people to talk to you individually. So like, I always tell my people that some problems I can't really solve, but I will listen to you because a problem shared is a problem
half solved. Yeah.
So I started out a scholarship scheme for the disadvantaged children in this constituency. At the moment, we have 370.
Oh, wow.
We call it Madam Teacher's Education Scheme.
Okay.
And we take on, not necessarily the orphans. Some orphans are well off than even some children who have parents. I draw it from my own example. I had a father and a mother, but I could not afford to pay my fees. So I still believe there are other people like me.
Okay.
So when we are going to assist a child with education, we don't necessarily take on orphans only, although we have many orphans, especially children of my cadres who have died. As we continue to struggle, in most cases I've been picking the one who becomes the heir. If that child is still of school going age, I've taken them on. And I'm also a mother. Between me and Henry, we agreed to be parents of several children. And we have 27 now.
Wow.
Those are our own who live in this house.
27 children in the house.
Yes, we get them. One, Henry lost a brother. And that brother of his left him a number of children. Good enough, they have all gone through university. At times, my husband, when he was still working for the Ministry of Works, at times he could spend 3 years without getting a salary back home, because he would go get loans in the banks, put these children in school, and then the salary would go to pay the loan. By the time he completes the loan, then it is another school term.
Oh, okay.
And then he continuously would be borrowing money to see these young men and women go through school. We are very grateful. All of them have graduated. And when you come here and look at the bachelor case, we are going to benefit Uganda in all sectors. We just talk about medicine, we have a doctor. When you talk about law, we have a lawyer. When you talk about roads, we have engineers.
Please mind the steps. Yes.
So
you have every other kind of
yes, we have all of them here. And yes, now we have 27, like I've told you. Some of them are still in primary, and some of them are our real biological children.
How many biological children do you have, by the way?
You see, we don't have the luxury to tell that.
Okay.
Because all these children
are yours.
I mind, they will watch this program. Now, if I say I have 5, now they will start looking at themselves
and counting
who
exactly
who is exactly among the 5.
Yes.
Yeah. Some of them don't even know that I'm not their mother biologically. And then, let me ask you. So many people come here and ask me. I tell them I have 27 children. And they say, but how many biological children do you have? So I want to talk about this biological thing also. If one hen lays eggs,
okay,
and abandons them, and another hen come and sits on them and hatches them for the 21 days and hatches them into chicks, who is the biological mother?
Well, it's quite a tight one then. You would help me. Who in that case is the biological mother?
For me, the person who gave life to the eggs is the mother. Motherhood, to me, is different from getting pregnant, bear the pregnancy for 9 months, and then the pain of labor.
So yes, it's just not
those are wonderful things. And yes, mothers are real heroes. You know, heroes, the women who go to the labor ward and push their children out of the uterus. Yes, it's okay. But for me, motherhood is about being available to be a mother for a child. And you see that child through childhood. And you mentor that child into a responsible human being.
Okay.
So when I see my children here, it never occurs to me that these are biological and these are not biological. What the only difference here I give to my biological children is to attend to them while putting into mind that they are young. That is the only difference they have with others, that they are young. Maybe they will need needle milk when the rest of the family is not taking milk. Maybe that. But you know, even when it comes to taking them to school, by and large, I try to put them in similar schools.
Okay.
When I go to buy clothes,
everyone else gets.
Yes. Here in my home, there is nobody who owns a bed. No one here in this home, not even me, owns a cup.
Everything belongs to everyone.
Everything belongs to everyone. We just say that these are boys' rooms and these are girls' rooms. So I used to go and buy the similar dresses because I knew to children, even the difference of color can make a child sick. Feel that maybe I'm not loved. They gave that one a red dress and mine is yellow.
Okay.
So I would buy exactly the same color, the same material, until when these girls became big girls and they said, Mommy, look
we
here.
Can't start wearing
We are
the same
tired
clothes.
of putting on uniforms. And you know what they said?
Yeah.
Start giving us money. You know, we really sympathize with you.
Going and suffering to buy the clothes.
To buy the clothes. You give us the money, we shall go and buy. Of course, they know some things which I can't buy.
Yeah.
When we are taking them to school, they prefer to be taken by Dad, because when they reach the supermarket, they will say, I want that perfume. I want that.
And you can't buy them those.
I want this. But for me, it's just the necessities.
All right. In your time in Parliament, you've talked about your children. There are lots of things you've gone through. You're being arrested, this and that. How do the children take this? Or even during campaigns, there is just a lot of work to do, a lot of attention.
It affects
How does
them.
the family take
It
this?
affects them. Teachers in schools where they go, I've always taken note that they are my children. And they give them special protection. That's why you see that I don't take them to any school. It must be a school where I will put someone in confidence to know that, one, people who hate me might target my children. Two, if they are to receive news about my arrest, hospitalization or whatever, it should be given to them in a good way. The younger one, he's so interesting, Mulunji. She's one person who pretends that she's not, she is never affected by those arrests. But I have a boy now, he's in senior 3. For him, he really breaks down whenever I'm arrested. He really he breaks down, that one, yes. And then, my children don't want to join politics. And I don't think
they've already been traumatized.
I don't think that this is from nowhere. It's because of the trauma we have undergone as children. At times we wake up here when the whole place is surrounded by armed people. When during those preventive arrests, they also become prisoners like me. One time, Joshua climbed the ladder from that corner there, and he started throwing stones at the policemen. That, you know, his father told him, no, those policemen have not done anything wrong. They were sent here by their bosses. Don't throw stones at them. In fact, we needed to make them our friends. And for him, he always say, when I grow up, I must be a policeman. When he was young, at 3 years, he was saying, when I grow up, I'll be a policeman specifically to protect the message. And then he would say, I would be a policeman to protect my mother. And he grew up, and everybody who comes here knows that, where's the policeman? Now he's a big boy.
I'm told you have 2 homes in Mukono particularly.
Yes.
What could be the reason for that?
You know, some people think that I'm so rich that I can afford to run 2 self-contained homes just for my own sake. No, one is for children. When I have political, especially during election time, the children will stay on the other side of the town, and I will remain here. I will go and check on them, and we turn over this home to political activities. We come here very late in the night. We sit in the meetings here very late in the night. So the whole place is full of people. You know, you have girls who are growing up. You can't just mix them with everybody else. So when such period comes,
You isolate
the second
the
home
children.
comes in handy.
Okay.
So the children will sleep there in town and I remain here. So, but when I got sick, people got to realize that I can also stay on the other side of the town.
All right. In your life as a legislator, what has been your turning point in Parliament so far? Like, let's start with the best. What was your best moment in Parliament, or so far has been your best moment?
When I moved the motion on maternal health, and it was adopted by the International Parliament, and now, when UN worked on that motion to become the benchmarking kit for developing countries. By the time I joined Parliament, government was no longer employing midwives. I made a case for them that, a midwife is a midwife and a nurse is a nurse. So I moved the motion to urge government to abolish that policy and start recruiting midwives again. Yes, the motion was carried in Parliament, and because of that, the first year when that thing, recruiting midwives was resumed, they recruited 5,000 midwives. To be able to do something and you give employment to 5,000 Ugandans, that is very nice. And then the 5,000 midwives, we are going to serve our people.
Yes.
So many things have changed in that area of maternal health since I brought that motion, and
Okay.
I'm so happy with it. I'm even so grateful that the speaker has promoted that the debate we carried out in Ugandan Parliament has been carried across the world.
I know there's so many other good things that happens, but that topped it. So what has been your best, your worst experience or worst thing, something you regret ever having been a parliamentarian?
No, I don't regret. There isn't anything to regret about.
But okay, what's
but
the
of
worst
course, the worst
experience?
was the day my back was broken in Parliament during the Tojikwatako debate. It was so bad. That must have been a big turning point in my life.
Okay.
I ended up on crutches. I have this pain that doesn't go away. I had to change so many things, including here. My role here in this house as a woman and as a mother changed. Basically, it is my husband now who is doing all those small things I was supposed to do as a woman, like mopping the bedroom, making the bed, putting there water for us to bathe, and even at one time, people don't know that. For example, I can't bend. I don't bend. I can't put on shoes. I can't put on a knicker without assistance.
Wow.
Because it involves bending. I don't. My husband basically has had to leave his job to be here with me. It's quite sad that, you see, when a Muganda woman, you can't kneel.
Very sad. How does it happen attending Mengo celebrations?
I've never gone back to Mengo.
Because you can't kneel.
You're not
able to kneel before the Kabaka.
I feel so troubled to go before the Kabaka and then I stand up to greet him. I don't know how I would handle that.
Okay.
So now it seems that I'm sick. I'm disabled and I have this constant pain and I have to choose between life and painkillers. But then, even pain kills. So we live by the grace of the Lord.
And I don't want us to end on a very sad note because we're getting teary. The skies are smiling at us. One more last thing. I see you saw her pick a lot of insects off my jacket or something.
Yeah, because of my home. It is organic.
There is a lot of organic stuff.
My home is organic, and don't get troubled with these small insects. They are part of the life ecosystem in this place. Yes,
is that part of your
It is supposed
hobbies?
to be like that. My son recently returned from China, but he told me that the thing that made him smile very early in the morning was to hear the birds singing.
Wow.
That when he is in China, he just doesn't get to see any bird anywhere. So yes, we are in this growing flowers.
Is that your hobby? You told me earlier about some of the things you love to do.
Yes, for me, there are two things I do consistently: collecting books and collecting art pieces.
Oh.
It's a hobby, and I always ask my children, who will inherit these things?
Oh.
Who will inherit my library, for example? I'm one of those politicians, very few of them who have libraries at home.
That's true.
And then I read so much. I read so much, and you know, I don't know even how I do it. If you go to my bedroom, you will find there heaps and heaps of books. My husband, most probably to revenge, because we would be in the bedroom and he's trying to bring up a conversation, but for me, I'm deep in the book.
Okay.
So these days also reads a lot.
Okay.
Of course, for him, he reads books, mostly religious books.
All right. Well, Honorable Nambooze, I know there is a huge, big story. There are lots of things.
Yes.
We can talk about people's government, we can, lots of things, but I mean, we cannot continue with this. I would like
the people's government.
Yes. You want to talk about that?
Is a consolation we gave ourselves.
Consolation.
Yes. Because we won elections. Chiza Besigye would have formed the government.
But you're not in the Forum for Democratic Change.
Yes, I'm not FDC, and I will never be FDC unless FDC people change their ideology. Let me tell you one small thing which I don't agree with FDC. For them, they say one Uganda, one people. They want all Ugandans to come together and form one people. For me, I believe in diversity. Different people, one Uganda.
Okay.
That's why some people mistakenly, they call me that Nambooze is tribalistic. But like you who has come to my home and you see my children, you know it's not true. It's not true. I just value these natural societies of Uganda that came together in 1962 to make
one Uganda.
One Uganda. So we have one Uganda, but different people. So we would leave the Batolo to be, we would leave the Banyolo to be, we would leave the Baganda to be, we would leave the Langese to be, but then we would know that, yes, I'm a Muganda, she is a Munyolo, the other one is coming from Acholi, but in Uganda we are one. And then there are those things which unite us as Ugandans, but also there are those things that you will find Baganda doing, and you know, they are not issues of interest for the people in Busoga, and you'd allow the Basoga also to preserve their culture. And I think if we are to go that direction, this country would even develop at a very, very high speed. Honorable,
time is really against us, but one last time, you said you are in a consolation kind of mode.
Yes.
So
when we did not take state power, we said that at least let's form a government and offer Ugandans an alternative. And yes, we have given you an alternative. At times when we do things and you know we achieve, the country does not take notes.
Things like what?
Let me tell you. Every time you see me advocating for or against something, I'm doing work on your behalf.
Okay.
We give government alternatives. And at times, we even do some things this government would not have done. Those people who were saying that ours is something we are doing in fertility, they should just look at what is happening to people like Kaihura. It is us who first took Kaihura to court in Machindi. Don't you remember? That is the people's government. We have now taken President Museveni to ICC. Very soon, those who are calling us comedians are going to be surprised.
Okay.
Yes, because we are, in fact, even before Mr. Museveni is indicted, the mere fact that we are raising a petition against him, in a way, because Museveni is also a human being, he now takes care whenever he's moving against Ugandans. Yeah. Well, so for me, I'm very happy with this war government. We call it a war government. And let me tell you, one day we shall surprise people like you.
Okay.
We shall overthrow Museveni. I tell you.
Is it just an overthrow or a peaceful transfer that you want to see?
Because this juntaship and the dictatorship must be overthrown. We don't expect anything less than that.
And then what happens to the peaceful transfer that everyone wants to have?
No, you can overthrow dictatorship peacefully without involving yourselves into violence.
The Constitution as well talks about that.
Yes, Article number 3.
Oh, my. Well, that's where we have to end at this point in time. Honorable Nambooze has a huge, beautiful story, but time could only allow us to take in all this. And as we end, the sky is smiling at us, a beautiful place with beautiful skies watering the organic space that we do have here. Thank you for joining us on People and Power. I am Mildred Tohaise. Have a lovely night and God bless you.
Amina.